Hello, welcome to episode 109 of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony, and every week my best friend and partner in comic book crime, Stevie Wildcard, and I get together and we do our best to overcome the various obstacles and issues that life throws our way. Sometimes it's something, sometimes it's personal stuff. We go through dating issues, adulting issues, parenting issues, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes we get the whole play on words, double entendre situation of having comic book issues to show people and share with people. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have devastating, personal issues. We've gone through some of that this year. We've gone through a lot while making this book. It's been somewhat absurd. Most recently, though, we've had something of a catastrophic event, like a disaster event of what feels like apocalyptic proportions hit our coast in our cities and destroy everything. And of course, I'm talking about Hocus Pocus 2. We're talking about people. Not. I have to joke. I have to make dumb jokes. I don't have to, but I do. That's because I don't know what else to do with this. It's like, I'm so tired. Everyone. It's been a really long week. For those of you who don't know, Steve and I are Floridians. We are proudly meth gatory people. We're of the land of fire and more fire. We salute to a flag of gators and doom and old people and carnage. It is very Sad Max over here recently. We are it's Mad Max, but instead of Thunderdome, we had like a thunderstorm dome. Like it was a terrible hurricane of biblical proportions raining down upon us. Just shook us like a titan, and it's changed a lot. Like a lot of the places we knew growing up are just no more. They just just so it goes. Things it's gone. Just no longer. It's weird. It's been weird. It's been a whole thing. It's a new mourning process that we're getting through. It's very unusual. But we have a lot to be thankful for. Steve and I are both very healthy, happy, like we're making it. Our families are, for the most part, getting through it okay. There's been a lot of sadness and weirdness lately. Anyway, I'm here today because I fortunately am in a place that is a community that's received power, and it's a tentative internet, very precarious internet, but it's working for now, so I'm gonna do what I can. Stephen, however, has not been so fortunate. Stephen is in we'll have a full Stevie Wildcard update as soon as we can. Actually, next week he's going to come here, and we're going to record an in-person episode together. We might do it live. I don't know what that's going to be like. We'll see. But for now, I just wanted to say hi to everyone, touch base, let you know that we're doing all we can. I'm sorry that we haven't been as active on social media. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to contact people about being on the show. Obviously, we're going through a lot. It's been an ordeal, and it's going to be a process. We're going to get back to where we were. The colony is going to be strong, stronger than ever. We stuck our head in the sand, and the water came in and was trying its best to drown us. So now we're just doing our best to, kind of just wait out the water as it just dissipates slowly and surely. But we thank you all for remaining with us and for watching our episodes, even though we haven't been able to share them. So if you're seeing this right now, please go and check out our last couple episodes, and share this one with your friends. Literally, let them know what's going on. But obviously, given everything that's going on, we couldn't record a normal episode. I couldn't be like, "Hey, Steven, let's talk about the bucket." And he's like, "This bucket is flooded with death frogs from above. The heavens are crying on us." It's filling the bucket. But anyway, we couldn't do that because Steven doesn't have internet. He just got power back. Thankfully, we can't trust it at this. Can't trust this. Sorry. But what we can do, because we were fortunate enough to record two interviews just before the storm, is I can show you guys our hilarious, very insightful somewhat ridiculous, but amazingly, it was entertaining to me. I loved every second of it. But the best interview with Andy Clarke, comic book writer extraordinaire, or comic book creator. This guy does literally everything there is to do. He was phenomenal. He was so much fun to talk to. It was just, it was all of our interviews have been a lot of fun, but it was one of those things where it was like surprisingly entertaining, where it was just like Steven and I were laughing the whole time. We were all getting, to know each other, and it was just a great time. It was especially great because it was one of the last fun hurrahs we got to do before this devastating storm. So we have it. We have that to share with you guys. I'm so thankful for that, because otherwise it's just a lot of like let's talk about weird sadness and skirt through that, and we'll get to that. I'll talk about stuff. But it's just weird. It's weird, going through this stuff. I don't we want to be entertaining. We want to support people. We want to do what we can to be like a positive influence and just force in various communities wherever we're welcome. And sometimes it's a struggle, and I know we can't help it. We have to be true to what we're experiencing, true to ourselves, and we always are, but sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be a burden on people. I'm sure everyone feels that. I know it's not like the healthiest response mentally, but like, that's where my brain goes. I'm like, no one needs to hear my sadness right now, or Steven's sadness right now, but we're gonna give it next week. Prepare for ultimate sadness. No, I'm sorry we couldn't give you normal We Have Issues episode this week, but what we do have is a fantastic interview with Steven and I, talking to Andy Clarke, and just before the storm, where we're still like high spirits, higher hopes. We're just super ready to watch Hocus Pocus. Can't wait for it. Like never. It's like the day before Star Wars Episode 1 came out, where we're all like, yeah, new Star Wars, can't wait. And then like next week, you'll see how we felt about Episode 1. I don't know why I'm throwing shit. I don't mind Episode 1. Now I'm gonna talk to you for 3. No, I'm not going to talk to you about Episode 1 without further ado, because I can't help myself. Thank you all for watching and listening and subscribing. Thank you for your support. I'm sorry. This is ado. This is by definition ado. I'm giving ado after saying without further ado. You can't do that. That's with slightly more ado. Here is episode 109 of We Have Issues, which I'm going to subtitle We Have Interviews with Andy Clarke. But thank you so much. Hello, welcome to the latest episode of We Have Interviews. I'm Anthony. I'm Stevie Wildcard.
And I'm Andy.
Andy, I just right away before we get started, you're an incredible comic book writer and creator, artist. I recently as today read this book. I started it a while ago, and then it just, life got in the way. Life finds a way.
As life does.
Yeah. So I was like,
especially in this age.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I'm old. I have so many excuses. Never have to read anything again. But I want to read these things. So, and it's one of the reasons we love doing this is because it gives us an excuse to get into this kind of stuff. So I got to read your book today. Before we talk about this awesome book, I just have to get into the fact that we met on Twitter, and I had no idea that you had an accent that was different than mine at all. Like, I was just like, I don't know what you sound like. You could be faking it right now, and I need to know.
Well, I could, I'm an avid D&D player, so I like to practice voices, but this is actually my real voice. So, cool. you can trust this one.
Very cool. Actually, that's right. Okay, before we get into it, since you said you're a D&D player and you do have this wonderful accent, when you do accents, do you tend to stick to certain regional accents, or like my friends and people in the United States will often like put on a fake like Scottish accent or a fake
English.
Have you or any of your friends put on like a fake American accent for D&D or any role play?
We've not done American that I recall.
No one's like thinking American like immediately when they're thinking D&D. They're not going like.
I know, but like, how funny would it be to be like, because I was like, what if you're somewhere in the UK and you're just like, you know what? I want a Southern American elf warrior. That's what I'm doing.
Well, we had this discussion a while ago on our chat group that like everyone seems to do dwarf Scottish. Everyone does dwarf Scottish. We decided that dwarves should actually be Australian.
Oh, it makes sense though. I mean, that does make sense. Like, it's like a nice, harsh, dwarven, accented language.
So If they're Australian, what would New Zealanders be?
They would definitely be like gnomes.
Would they be gnomes?
Or like are they halflings in D&D? Is that what they are? Or
Yeah.
There's gnomes and halflings.
yeah. Oh, okay. So
all right, Steven, I'm sorry. I don't want to like bring back any hard memory. This is not our D&D podcast. This is
but I do have a question, because as the Floridian, I can't tell if we have a regional accent, or do we just sound like a run-of-the-mill American accent? Do we even have an accent to you? Or we
this is the interesting thing, because I've seen discussions on Twitter where people discuss accents, and a lot of Americans will say their favorite accent is British. It's like the British accent could be one of hundreds.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of different
and I think it's the same with American. There's definitely regional dialects that I could discern from one another. But to be honest, for you guys, I wouldn't have said, if I just heard you and didn't know you were from Florida, I would have said, oh yeah, they're from Florida.
Yeah, and that's what we've heard, that Florida's kind of like a non-regional dialect of English. It doesn't really have, and I think it's because we get so many transplants here. Like we have people from New York and Massachusetts, and I mean everywhere. We have Midwesterners, so we have a plethora of accents, but it's just not like we don't have it, basically.
Even this isn't about us in Florida. I don't know what we're doing.
I just like to ask that question.
I'm going to ask the first question here.
Cool.
Andy, who are you? And can you tell us a little bit about your books?
I am Andy J. Clarke. That's my pen name. And I am a failed musician currently working on becoming a failed comic creator.
Man, you are right. You are our people. Just
you
so
are
you know.
Exactly our people.
We're just gonna we should all just form a band together at this point.
Why not? I mean, that's what the internet's for, right?
For sure.
I recently, 4 years ago, started to work on my first comic, FLUX, and I've broken every rule in the book and decided to do everything myself. I've just actually finished watching your last interview with Tony James, is it?
Yeah.
And I have broken that exact rule you spoke about and tried to write a 60-issue story as my first ever story.
It's tough, man.
But FLUX is, at the moment, it's a very character-focused sci-fi epic. But as the story goes on, it's going to build into this bigger story of conspiracy and intrigue, and it's set in a distant future where Earth has been abandoned and humanity is spread out through the solar system. And it's basically the main overarching epic story of it is the conspiracy about what was the cause for Earth's demise.
Oh,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, the first issue is very intriguing. Like right away you set up this I'm always really impressed by these like sprawling worlds that people create. I tend to write in like a smaller sandbox, and I kind of I go like big ideas, small worlds, and just kind of try to make things really personal, because I'm terrified of the thing that you're really good at, which is just you write this whole universe of things. Like you're truly world build or universe building, where instead of like city building, and it's really fascinating. So I read that, and I was pretty impressed by
thank you,
the scope of it, and like what you've done with the characters and some of the fun themes that you're getting into with the different types of characters. Well,
I always say my writing is what I like to call thought experiments, and it's just like little bits of like these philosophical musings that I just wrap up in a big general sci-fi pew story sort of thing. So I just like having that thought process of, if this was a situation, if this was a scenario, how would things evolve from that point? And one of my biggest downsides for me when it comes to story writing, because I came up with this initial story years ago, but I realized, and I think this is why I quite take to D&D quite well, is I realized what I was doing, I was creating characters and I was creating worlds, but I didn't actually have I wasn't telling a story. I was just creating a setting. I was creating the people, which is great for D&D.
But you need something there. You need some meat and potatoes. But it's nice having those pieces. You know what I'm saying? Those pieces, if you have those nuances, that's what makes your world great. Like, how many stories have been told the same story gets told. I mean, there's only so many, was it like 31 different, I forget how many stories you can so many things you can follow. But having those individuals and those characters that create that moment, that's that's great, Yeah. It's a skill that some people don't have. So
some of the early concepts for the initial, as you read the first issue, that first concept of the Earth being surrounded by an artificial ring, I first came up with that idea when I was at school when I was about 13 years old. And I turn 40 next year, so that's how long I've had some of these concepts in my head.
It's just brewing and evolving.
Exactly, and I've just finally got to a point where actually I've got a plot now. I can start putting all those different pieces and put them together in an actual book, in a story. Because I actually tried to write it as a novel, not a comic, and I realized I'm a terrible novelist.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's a different skill for sure.
It is. It's like I can picture things in my head, but putting those images, those scenes and settings into words, I really struggled with that.
This sky is red.
Yes, that is how it came across. It was very much a man walked in, he sat down. It's like, how do you make that sound more poetic? It's like actually, I'm better drawing those scenes, not trying to describe them.
And you don't want to go the Nathaniel Hawthorne. No, I'm
kidding. 16 chapters later, the sky, a crimson red. No, so
and if you're doing every part of this, I think this is a pretty good question. Like, what are your biggest issues with creating and publishing these days, and how do you find and make time to work on such an extended, an expanded process? You're doing everything, so
that I mean, you pretty much touched on it there. It's the time element of it that's the biggest struggle, because I work a full-time day job. This is my side hustle, or whatever you want to call it, but I'm in a position where, as much as I would like this to be an epic financial success that lets me quit the day job, I'm not aiming for that. It's just the fact that I've had this story rattling around in my brain for all this time. As long as I get to finish it and get it out on paper, whether it reaches 10 people or 1,000 people, I'm happy, as long as I actually tell the story. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm doing it more for my own gratification than anything, but at the same time, that'd
be a nice bonus.
Exactly. It'd be a nice bonus. Because when I first set out, I had no intention of actually really putting it out to the public. I was just wanting to get into doing a bit of digital art, and I thought, making a comic, you have to keep repeating the process. It's a long process to get that practice in. So I thought I'll start telling that story as a comic, but then I started really getting into it. I was really enjoying it. I thought, actually, people might enjoy this. I'll start putting it out there, and people latched onto it, and I was like, maybe I should push this a bit more.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about how you had ideas early on, they kind of evolved over time. Have you noticed in your own art style and writing, and in everything in general, do you notice large leaps in your skill, like your ability as you're going forward, and how does that affect you and your book? How do you feel about that?
It's the fact that because I'm telling such a long story over so many issues, if I look at issue 1 and issue 6, which I'm currently working on, my art has come along leaps and bounds, and it's so hard to resist the urge to go, oh, let's go back to issue 1 and
let's freshen it up
and bring it up to the same standard.
That's why I brought that up.
I've even thought about going over my Play It Again lines and doing that, but I just need to, because I look at Play It Again, it worked for what the project was, but it's not even comparable. But what makes me not feel so bad about that is
the lie that I told when I said that you did it intentionally, because it's about a character finding himself. He's unfinished, Stephen. We created this story, the narrative, the metaphor. Why are you ruining this, Stephen? Stephen. Okay.
But Carlo Barberi, he's someone that penciled Deadpool for a while. Especially on, I think it's the Daniel Way run. But early on, when he was drawing Deadpool, you could see he didn't have his Deadpool design yet. But eventually, some of my Deadpool stuff, I don't know if you can see it, probably not so far away, but his style for Deadpool is one of my favorite newer styles for Deadpool. And you can, if I can see a professional artist grow on a character, then it's acceptable to grow. No one's gonna hold you to the fires because you've grown so much. They're just gonna be excited for the new art.
I totally understand that impulse to want to go back and fix it, though. I did that before Stephen abandoned me for a while. For a while he was just
how dare
he just he kicked me, Spartan kicked me into a well, and I was like, I'll make comics by myself, and I was miserable. But no, so for a while I was working on my own book, and I did a first issue of something. I have this book called Bullet and the Beast, and I printed it, and when I looked at it, I was like, immediately, like, my eyes opened, and like it was just like a flash of like everything wrong with the book. You know, I was just like, I see everything that could be fixed, everything that was wrong. And I was like, crap. So I took like 2 months and just went back and fixed the whole book and like recolored something. I redid it, and then like, but then I drew 2 more issues, and by the time I was on issue 3, I looked back at issue 1 and I was like, I see everything that's still wrong with this book.
I did exactly the same thing, because I did the first 2.5 chapters as like a first draft.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, if I'm actually going to push this out there and I'm going to actually let people read it, I'm going to go back. So the first chapter and a half, I did redraw.
Yeah.
And then actually looking at it again, I could go back and redraw it a third time. But I actually, since I've released, because I've released the trade paperback now, which is kind of like that was the dream for me, because I grew up reading graphic novels, trade paperbacks, and to have one of my own I've made. But I actually put a little afterward in there to say, you know, I could go back and fix it, but it kind of chronicles my journey as a creator. It's like it's visible there in the pages from page 1 to page 170 or whatever it is. So it's like, it's nice to, you know, leave those imperfections in there, because, you know, it's part of the process. It's part of how I've developed as a creator.
And that's why it's just so like, just go for it. Like when people like try to say they have to become an artist before they can be, no, just draw, man. Just draw what you can do. Get this work on it. And that's how you get better, because you can't get better just trying to like, you get better drawing comics when you draw comics. You know what I'm saying? You don't get better drawing comics just practicing character art, because like and things like that, because like, yes, it'll improve certain aspects of the pages, but the storytelling is what's important with a comic, right? So like, if the more comic panels you play with and figure out and learn how to like, you know, own a page, basically, that's how I kind of try to attack pages. Is like, this page is its own piece of art, and like, how can I make it, you know, work? It's just so much better. So just push into it. I see that question asked. I see that question asked all the time. Like, how do I like just start drawing comics? Just do it. You know?
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think what sucks about it is it's the most frustrating answer to the question, because everyone wants the magic wand, like rub their lamp and a genie pops out and it happens. But like Neil Gaiman says it about writing, it's like 1 word at a time is how you do it. You know, like it's about everything is that way. You have to literally just do whatever you can where you are with whatever you have. You know, and that's all we can do. And sometimes that means, you know, like Steven, like right now, like Andy, what you were saying about like, you have this big world that you've been building all this time. Steven has that right now in his head, and he's slowly creating this masterpiece that like, I love that this podcast will eventually chronicle the creation of this thing that Steven's going to eventually make. And it's gonna be like, I'm slowly gonna fade away as it's gonna be like masks, or like, you know, like you know, so but we're all gonna get to see that, but just that, like doing those little bits at a time, just like, you know, you're chiseling, you're dusting it off and making something, and
you're polishing the idea completely over time, right? Like it's being eroded by the water and everything, and just like like you're saying, it's beautiful.
So I love that idea. I love that we can do that with ideas, and that ideas can start as these weird little germs and just grow endlessly. Some of those things can grow into like fun, established, wonderful, iconic pieces of art and, you know, characters like Superman and Batman, you know, all the Spider-Man. And some of them become lesser known, obscure, crazy characters that we've never even heard of, which is a perfect segue to like a game that we're going to play called Comic Conjectures.
I like what you did there.
And I sing a song every time, and it's never the same, because it's Comic Conjectures, DC Universe. I love that my memory's so horrible that I can't remember anything.
That was it, though. Every time he says the same thing, and then he says he didn't. I don't get it. Or my memory.
Part of the whole theme. It's part of the whole, what if that's the whole theme song, though? The theme. I just never remember it. It's like the lyrics. If you go to Google, like those are part of the lyrics.
Okay, normally I ask for a letter. I'll ask you for a letter, although I randomly pointed to a name just now, just for fun, to see what I would come up with, and it is a name that I've never heard of, and something that I think is pretty interesting. So let's do this one real quick, and you get, after this one, we'll ask you for a letter. So every week, or you know, every once in a while, when we do these interviews, just to give some people some context, we look through the DC Comics Encyclopedia at the glossary, and we pick out names that we've personally never heard of. Could be names that you totally know about, and you could tell us how you can make fun of us for not knowing simple knowledge in the comments if you'd like. For us, it's a fun opportunity to just see what a character could be based on names, so we're gonna go through a name, pick out a name we've never heard, and guess what the character might be, and probably create something that it's not, but we'll see. This one, guys, I've never heard of this character. This is a character called Voiceover.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm really hoping it's a character because it sounds so cool. So what do you guys think, hero or villain right off the bat?
Ooh. I think I've got to say hero.
Okay.
Hero. See, my mind went villain. I went like twisted Robin Williams character. Well, Mrs. Doubtfire is not the best example for a good version of Robin Williams, but like an even more twisted, like a voice actor who can use his voice in a certain way and like figures out a way to be like, I don't know, it's just a manipulative villain. But hero can work too. I mean, completely. Like, what if it's the telepathic like linker on the squad, right? Like,
Okay, is it a real character or was it someone who was like sucked into like kind of like evaporated into the atmosphere and now they drive people mad, or maybe they act as like a conscience of being the voice to anyone they choose. So maybe it's someone who's just like, he considers taking the candy bar, but chooses otherwise. And then the guy's like, wait, what? No. I was.
Could you imagine being that being that you just decide to like narrate someone's life on a whim? Like,
yes. Like what if voiceover is just the the narrator that isn't a character, like the general narrator. He is, or they are every narrator ever, including your own conscience, like those like external voices that some people might hear, good or bad, I don't know. But I'm
just thinking to myself, I'm just picturing someone that watches Japanese anime, translates it, and that's all they do. They just translate anime, do the voiceover, and they decided, I'm doing a hero's work here. So I've got to give myself a superhero
He's name. He's the original person that dubbed like anime, like coming into America. He's like,
just pat themselves on the back. You know what? I'm doing the Lord's work. I'm translating things from Japanese, bringing them to America and elsewhere. You're welcome, everyone. That is, it's pretty heroic, honestly, I guess. So that could be it. All right, Steve. So we're going hero for sure. I don't even know what their villain would be. Like, that's why I went like the general, like, daily, day-to-day kind of, like, I came up with the character Karma Chameleon. Like, if I was invisible, I'd go around and I'd help people who are like I'd stop people from harassing retail workers, or like, when people take the shopping buggies and like put them behind cars, or I'd surround their car in it, and I'd be like, haha, Karma Chameleon strikes again, and I'd disappear.
Just like hidden, just screwing people over that deserve to be screwed over.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the hidden face of karma, but I'd wear a cape so then they know something happened. But
I've created a character in my head called Exposition Man that takes the voiceover narrator's job away from him by just putting exposition into the character's dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
That's good. That's great.
All right, let's figure out who this is. So, voiceover is actually. I learned about this from playing this game, but there's a thing called Hero Hotline. Have you guys ever heard of Hero Hotline?
I have not.
So it was a thing. Let me see if it actually explains what it is. When Superman is flying up and away, or Batman just isn't answering the bat signal, all anyone needs to do to find a substitute superhero is dial 1-800-555-HERO. The Hero Hotline is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and handles calamity beyond the range of the normal emergency services. So it's a place where you call to get a phone-a-friend superhero. So instead
like
of
a Squirrel
cops,
Girl from Marvel, or like
Steven, it's like a voiceover who is Andrew Greenwald, who can imitate any voice or sound. So I guess if you're like, there's someone outside my house, and they're like, they're scaring me, they're trying to break in. This guy shows up and he's like, you better leave them alone. And then it's like,
he just shows up, he's like, I'm gonna give you to the count of 10. 1
to get your note
10.
Yellow belly. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, Home Alone. So wait, actually so where are you from, Andy?
I've been a bit around the place, but I'm currently based in a city called Sheffield in the UK.
Okay.
But I'm originally from the Manchester side of the UK.
Oh, very cool. So that reminds me, because Stephen was just referencing Home Alone, and like there's some things, I'm sure it happens everywhere, but like regionally where we are, it's like it's just common knowledge that everyone has seen Home Alone a billion times here. So I don't know. Like, is that similar to where you are? Like, has everyone seen Home Alone, even though it's Home Alone?
Definitely.
Okay, just making sure.
John Hughes is a legend.
I mean, I have the controversial opinion that Home Alone 2 is actually the better film.
I mean, I do like them both pretty close. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I do like them both, but the first one, but the sequel was one of the few sequels that like reused the jokes, but it didn't feel bad.
That's what just crossed my mind.
Bad.
I was like, it's actually a really good sequel. So I don't like, I love them both equally.
Tim Curry is also in the sequel, if you think about it, which is bonus points.
Okay. Let's see. So give Andy, if you wouldn't mind, can I have a letter, please?
Let's go with R.
Okay.
R.
Let me see. Relative Heroes is pretty funny, but it sounds good group. Ooh, Ringmaster. I don't actually know Ringmaster, but it sounds like we guess what it is, right? I don't know. But maybe we wouldn't. I don't know. Okay. Do any of you know for certain what Ringmaster is?
I don't. I have a few different ideas what he could be.
I think that's what happens with this game sometimes. You hear a name like Ringmaster and it summons these images that don't exist. So so what are you imagining, like hero villain?
I'm picturing neutral.
Neutral.
Okay.
I think this is just some passerby, but I think he's probably involved in the circus that the Graysons are involved in.
Ooh.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so like the Graysons died on his watch, but it wasn't his fault. I mean, it was pending the story. It was
someone who creates superheroes by creating the potential for drama. He's like, no, step right up here. No, nothing terrible is gonna happen this time. Created another superhero. You're all welcome. Yes, I killed their family, but
he's like
make a villain.
Yeah, he's like walking by. Martha, you should totally wear that pearl necklace tonight when you go to the movies.
To the movies. Oh my god,
Ringmaster. What I think Ringmaster could be. Two, besides a neutral character, because like I thought circus immediately too. And I think Ringmaster, I'm thinking the red, the red jacket,
top hat.
Yeah, top hat, all that stuff. But then I was also thinking DC, there's a lot of normal villains in DC. So like he could be like the Ringmaster, like almost think like someone that like controls all the boxing matches, like makes people like throw fights and like basically the bookie that like wins by forcing people to like the Ringmaster, like he's criminal overlord.
I was gonna say he's the kingpin of DC,
basically,
is what you're thinking.
But not as cool as
I went with more like how like Mr. Freeze has a bunch of guys in, like wearing parkas with like goggles, and they're all like ice-based villains. Like I imagined it was just like it was a circus ringmaster who had like a bear with a shotgun, and like
that would be awesome. Like the leader
a group of clowns
squad
who are juggling like fire chainsaws who like fight people. But like they're villains. It's all it's essentially like the Joker's henchman, and he's just a different version of that. But Or Steve, what if? Well, okay, let's go hero. I know it's probably not a hero, but what if he's a hero and he is like the Captain Planet of the Ringmasters, and it's like, or like of the circus. So it's like different parts of the circuit. There's like the freak show, like something that can turn into any kind of creature or bend, and like the Mr. Fantastic. Basically, the freak show version would be all the Fantastic Four combined into one character to do all those things.
Makes sense.
You have like the animal handler, like the guy who can, or woman who can like control animals and get them to help fight crime for her, or like a Beast Boy situation. So you have like, maybe you have like each of the rings of the circus, and then the Ringmaster is the strongest Captain Planet of them all.
Comes out, he's like got a little bit of all their powers. And
that would be.
He's the Green Ranger basically in their Power Ranger squad. Tommy's back, by the way. I saw him in an episode of Dino Fury. My kids watch Dino Fury, and I saw Tommy. I was like, what? Green Ranger's back? In the DC, Ringmaster was an author hypnotized by Golden Glider into becoming a supervillain as revenge against the Flash, relying on various ring-shaped gadgets for his crimes. His first appearance in the comics was the Flash 261. And he totally does wear the Ringmaster get up, though.
Does he? I was going to say, but like... Yeah. I'd like to say that each of our ideas was more fun than what that was just now. But that's okay. It's fine. That's what this game is about. Like, so it goes to show you, I feel no shame about not knowing that character. I like the fact that any of us right now could go and write a story about any of the characters we just came up with, and it would be fun, and people would probably like it.
We clearly have the skills.
I I love it. Thank you, Andy, for playing Comic Conjectures with us. That was a lot
problem.
of fun.
So, and we did lightly cover this a little bit, but how can someone who has never written a book or drawn a comic or done anything get to where you are?
An excellent question. To get to where I am, it's basically following the same process that I went through.
No,
I didn't realize.
We want your address. We're stalking you now. We want to live where you live.
You're
in our cult and you can't escape. This is what we're talking about. We need. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you ever visit in the UK and you need a carriage to crash on.
Oh, I appreciate it. That'd be amazing.
But no. I didn't realize how easy it actually is. I say easy, but I didn't think comics were within my, reach to be able to create. But then I realized the software and the actual hardware is actually quite accessible. So it's having the idea, having the drive to do it. And just if you've got a story or just a concept that you believe in, just give it a go, rough it out, and just bullet point those ideas, and always have a notebook to hand for
scribbles.
Exactly, yeah. But when it comes to actually the publishing side of things, I've done everything self-published. Amazon Kindle, Global Comics is a great website at the moment for digital publishing of comics. But it's what really surprised me was how cost effective it can be to actually print physical comics, and how you can do short runs, because of all the single issues that I've done, I've only done runs of 50 copies of each issue, and that's well within the budget that I've been working to.
It is surprising how cheap they are to print, even though they do cost money. But you think about, if you go get a poster printed somewhere locally, it's going to cost you $15-20, but you can somehow get a whole comic book printed for like $3 or something like that.
Exactly.
It's really not that. I mean, you're going to come out of pocket, of course, but you can it's not for what you're getting. I feel like it's totally worth that amount.
Yeah, definitely. But I think one of the biggest thing that is a great help is, as much as social media can be a headache and a horrendous place at times, it's also a place to find great comic communities, like how I discovered you guys through it, and so many of the other creators that you've interacted with and had on the show, and others, and everyone out there is so helpful. And if you've got questions on how to do a certain thing, who are the best printers to go to, how do you get into comic cons, because I've done a few comic cons now, tabled at them, and a few comic fairs, just having that community where you can interact with other creators who will say, well, I did this Comic Con last week, it was great, you should try that one, or actually this Comic Con was horrendous, don't ever try that one again. But just having that network of people, and just don't be scared to approach people on Twitter in the comics community, because everyone, from what I've encountered, are really cool people that are just more than happy to help and share advice.
Absolutely. I've noticed that too. Like, I mean, there are definitely people that aren't that way, but I've noticed that this, I guess you can call it industry, like this area isn't as cutthroat as you think it would be. Like, it's actually people are basically like, hey, we're all kind of just swimming in this water. Let's try to get to, we're not crabs in a bucket. Let's try to
Steven, now, let us be crabs in a bucket. Stop taking us.
Yeah, once one of us hits the next tier, I don't know what happens then. But
we think of everyone as crabs in a bucket, Steven, and we eat them. No, I'm kidding. No, but
some water on them.
You're absolutely right, though. I mean, that's one of our favorite things about doing this podcast and the interview. That's why we started doing the interview series, is to have the opportunity to meet more people and actually talk to them at length. Because before, we were having people just on our show, and it was kind of it was fun, but people get we couldn't talk as much about anything in particular. And I want to talk about your books and talk about what your process more than anything, and then give people an opportunity to find you and find your books. So, but yeah, it's great. It's been a good community. People really do show up for each other.
Really,
I appreciate it.
I will say, stay very far away from Facebook manga groups, though. They are not supportive of one another. They very much are crabs in a bucket. Because I'm just in them just to see people's work and post my work every now and then. And man, they are just so mean to one another. They hate on each other. So stay far away from them.
I like how we're all about the bucket here, and then now the bad people are crabs. They're crabby people. All right, so Andy Clarke, Who is your book Flux for? What kind of like who will enjoy this book? Who's it? Who's the audience for it?
Well, this is the $100 question, really. But I hate relying on comparing it to other things, but what the sort of target audience I go for are fans of movies like Blade Runner, general fans of the 80s and 90s sci-fi that I grew up on, like the Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop, Terminator, Aliens. If you love that sort of thing, that's where my book is at. It's kind of, I've heard people compare it to sort of a space Game of Thrones, which is like, okay, I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Especially if it's like seasons 1 through 4 of the early books, obviously.
Exactly,
I mean, that's a compliment through and through for sure.
And
now I feel like it's like season 8 Game of Thrones. It's so great. I don't know about that. We're not season 8 Game of Thrones.
See, I love Game of Thrones. But yeah, but like recent series like The Expanse and Altered Carbon that were on Netflix, that's very much in that sort of like gritty sci-fi niche. I mean, it's definitely a book for more mature readers. It's definitely not one for the kids. But yeah, definitely that sort of like dark, gritty sci-fi, in that sort of like dystopian, almost cyberpunky, Blade Runner-esque sort of like environment. If you like that kind of thing, it'll probably be right up your alley.
Awesome. So where can people find you and enjoy your work?
I am on Twitter and Instagram. My handle on both of those is Andy J. Clarke Art, and it's Clarke with the E on the end, just to get the alternative spelling. The book's available in print directly from me. For you guys in the US, it is a bit tricky because the cost of shipping is horrendous. It's like, I mean, I've got the trade paperback here. To ship one of those to the US is almost as much as it is for the book, and that's like 6 weeks transit time. So for you guys, I'd say if it's easier for you, for you to go digital, I'm on Global Comics, I'm on Kindle. You can just search Andy J. Clarke and Flux, and it takes you straight to it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll put all of the links below. Make sure everyone can find the book. Everyone should follow Andy on Twitter. He's a great guy. Let me.
Hey, real quick, just to let you know, because we were considering doing it with Play It Again for the same problem for people across the pond. I think if a comic on Amazon is more than 50 pages, they can print on demand. So like so you could potentially in the future upload your novel, your graphic novel to Amazon, and they'll print on demand in America and ship it to people for cost.
Well, that's what I tried to do, but it was a very difficult process, and they kept they kept rejecting it because they kept wanting me to shrink. They wanted a border about that big around the page on each side.
So Amazon's just not on board with the comic format.
No, they want everything to be like a novel. Like, you have quite a big border around your text on a novel, and they want to add the same stipulations to graphic novels, and it's just like
that just doesn't work. You have to respect the bleed. You got
exactly.
Well, sometimes you can't even properly condense a page. I mean, like the formatting's is off.
Yeah. So, but Andy, it's been fantastic talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but like I was saying, everyone please just go follow Andy on Twitter. Find all of his books below. He's a great guy. It's been excellent talking to you. I love having this book. I can't wait to read the rest of them. I wish it didn't cost $1 billion to ship it over here so I can get the whole trade because I like physical stuff. But I will check out the digital copy. I hope everyone else does too.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people before you go?
No, I think that's everything, to be honest. Just keep following and supporting indie comics. Like support indie comics is the hashtag that I just use over and over. I've decided I'm going to get a banner for when I'm tabling at Comic Cons. It just says hashtag support indie comics.
Yeah,
because it's so important, because without indie comics you don't get mainstream comics. All those mainstream comic creators came from indie comics.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to support the independent creators, and not just comics, independent music, independent anything, because as soon as it goes out of independent, then you get the big money involved and it compromises things. So support the people that were trying to do it themselves.
Absolutely.
Find the actual art, not the commercialized art.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's why we're making a cult, and that's why now you're a part of it, and you can't escape. I'm not even going to ask anymore, Steven. They're just in. You're in.
The moment you agree to the interview, it's
yeah. You had to choose to click. I offered. I was like, here's this link. If you click it, you are part of this cult, and you were like, I am in all in.
I am a happy member.
All right. No, we're happy to have you. It's been great talking to you, dude. But please go to youtube.com/We Have Issues podcast and hit the subscribe button. It does help us. I know we haven't been able to share. I just am getting internet back. Steven just got power back. We're trying to make our way in the world. This is just going to be another weird little pin, or just hopefully a marginal liner note in the diary that is this podcast, where you guys get to watch this whole journey. We do have a lot of updates, so I'm excited to share with you. I have a finished, readable, working copy of Deathless now, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. Steve and I are going to talk about that next week. But anyway, we have a lot to share with you, but thank you for, being forgiving and, welcoming, and thank you for all of your kindness and your kind words and just well wishes through this ridiculous time. And there are a lot of people out there who have it a lot worse than we do at the moment. So just, we're thankful, and we're thankful to be where we are and have the support system that we do. So thank you all for everything you've done for us. Know that it means everything, and we appreciate you. But thank you for watching episode 109 of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony, and see you next time.
Oh,
hello.
How's it going?
All good. How are you guys?
We're doing all right. We got a hurricane coming, but we're Floridians. We're used to it.
I've just been reading about that, and I'm like, shit, crazy.
They look so. I want you to know they look so scary on the radar, but just imagine like a tornado in the middle. That's the problem. That one big tornado in the middle. This looks scary, but it's not really what this is. This part is scary, So.
It's all terrifying. Don't listen to him. It's
Irma was crazy because Irma, you could see it from space. It was it was 3 times the size of Florida or something. But
it's a Titan, is what it is. We need a Hercules.
It's the wind. It's the wind water Titan working together.
Sure. We complain about the weather here, but then we look at that and it's like, context.
Yeah, right, exactly.
For sure.
Oh, it seems as if they're facing the Armageddon. That's okay. All right, then. We'll take this.
Yeah.
It's literally rolling like a 20-sided dice to see if it's your city that gets hit. It's like, I rolled a nat 20. We're good. We're good over here.
All right. So let me get my questions up. All right. Well, Andy, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming
you
on.
too.
I'm glad we finally get to do this.
Yeah.
So you don't have an active campaign. Normally recently we've been interviewing people with active campaign stuff. But you do have a good link tree and everything where people can buy your books. So we're totally gonna target that. So we're just gonna ask 6 questions. That's how these usually work.
No worries.
Yeah. So it's gonna start off. I'm gonna just do a quick hello, welcome to the We Have Interviews, and I'm gonna say I'm Anthony. He's gonna say he's Steven, and you say you're Andy, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, cool. We got it. All right.